Welcome to this Spirit Gathering teleconference. Today is October 18th, 2016. My name is Sally Ekaireb, and our topic this evening is Trusting Divine Love is Ever Present. We're very glad that you've joined us this evening. We are recording this call so that people who could not be here tonight can listen in. Please either mute your phone button or press *6 to mute your line to help keep the line quiet. Tonight we are going to be meeting as a conversation council, which means that you will be able to speak once you're invited and only let care that the current speaker finish before you begin. We're going to start tonight with our invocation. So let's take a moment now to get settled, to center ourselves, to let go of the events of this day, and begin to enter the deeper sacred space within ourselves. Now, let us imagine that we are joining together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with every other person on this call right now. Now let us imagine that we are joining together in a circle with a light or flame or fire in the center. Imagine a spoke of light coming from the center of the circle to your heart. And for each person on the call tonight or listening in after, now we are connected, sacred heart to sacred heart. Our intention for this evening is that we listen to one another with compassion and curiosity. We ask for what we need and offer what we can. We deepen our connection with one another and with the divine. May this sharing serve us, our communities, and the planet. And so it is. This evening I chose Trusting Divine Love is Ever Present. And the reason I chose this topic is that lately I have been very disturbed by the turbulence of the world, both in my immediate life situation and the global conflicts. It seems that every time I tune into the news on the radio, paper, or internet, something affects me. It's hard for me to believe the kind of thinking patterns that seem to be so prevalent today, the volatility of emotions, the range of the weather patterns, and I am a very, very sensitive and open person. So I feel this very intensely. And I also feel other people's emotions. That when I hear people talk, it's like there's another level of communication that transpires. And I take in not only the words, but a wave of emotion that is being projected from another individual. And sometimes it feels overwhelming because people in my life that I deal with, even sometimes casual encounters, these people are dealing with very intense situations. Very few people that I know right now are having a really easy, just joyous day-to-day life. Most of them are being thrown all sorts of challenges. You know, of course, some people are better able to deal with those challenges than others. And what I'm seeing is so many people in our society don't seem to have those tools. And I, unfortunately, can get sucked in and take on emotional patterns that are not even necessarily those emotions that belong to me. And it's very disorienting. And so sometimes what happens is I shut down, and sometimes I'll withdraw and just be in my home in Weaverville. And it kind of becomes my little sanctuary here. Now, as a metaphysical healer and counselor, I know that divine love is ever present, and it is the true substance of existence. And yet, the delusion of the day-to-day challenges seem to override this. So I live with this kind of duality. I have a consciousness of this truth, but I do not always live this truth. For me, this was not the truth of my youth or even early adulthood. Divine love was not present in my home growing up to a great extent. There was a church component, but my father was very hostile to religion. And it was not a loving environment. Love was doled out based on performance. You were good if you behaved good. You were not assumed to be good, and certainly not perfect as one truly is. So there are many patterns from my past that rule my life today. And I'm very lucky in that I'm aware of these patterns. And I'm aware that these patterns do not serve me. In fact, they create a lot of suffering and anguish. But again, the blessing in my life is that I can catch myself. I can see when I've gotten sucked in. I can see when I'm starting to operate from my mental chatter instead of from my heart, from a place of love and compassion. Perhaps you too have felt this kind of duality, this despair that can kind of enfold upon the consciousness like a black cloud that seems to permeate everything. At least that's what I can kind of experience. And I know that there is a light there, that the darkness does not have to obscure the joy of life. When I find myself in these thoughts and emotional patterns, I try and be gentle with myself. Reproaching myself never helps. Unfortunately, one of the primary patterns of my youth was the critical parent. And to some degree, I have internalized that voice and those tapes. And that's when I really, really need to look for love in my life, because I need to be gentle and loving with myself first. And I'm lucky because sometimes when it's hard for me to find that place of self-compassion, I have a wonderful, ever-loving dog named Chance, who doesn't know how to be anything but loving. It really is why I think they say dog is God spelled backwards, is he is just another presence of God or love. And he just radiates it so joyfully. And I have relationships that remind me of the love bonds I have in my life. And I am so grateful for those, because sometimes they are like lifelines. And sometimes it takes me reaching the divine in myself and in kind of a higher conscious connection by being with other people and being in community. And it is one of the gifts of this community that we can come together. We can join our hearts, and we can feel the resonance of the bond of being together in this loving unity. The other way that I connect with the divine is to go into nature. I have particularly found this to be so rewarding here living in North Carolina. There is almost a resonance and pulse that I pick up on when I am in nature. And I literally don't have to go far. I can go out my front door and just be in my garden. And what has totally stunned me is after living in New York City for over 30 years, I find that gardening is one of the most soothing activities of my life. And I will go out and start plucking weeds and trimming this and digging that and adding mulch, and literally hours can go by and it feels like minutes. It's not until I'm parched in the throat that I'll look at my clock and say, wow, where did the time go? Because I was so absorbed and so connected with this life force that everything else dropped away. And that for me has really, really been so nurturing, especially in these times. Lately, I have consciously chosen to take half a day just to go hiking with people, because I know that there's been so much turbulence that I need that kind of nurturing to sustain me so that I connect with this beauty that we have here on this planet. because unfortunately there is so much pain and suffering that is anchored here as well. The other things that I turn to when I really want to kind of shift my vibration, because I do find that love, like joy, is a vibration, and that when I get into something like fear, my vibration plummets. And so I will turn to Tai Chi Cha, or I will go to a class of 5 rhythms dance and just dance for an hour and a half and ride this wonderful wave that I create through music and rhythm and movement. And it's wonderful because it truly creates a higher vibration, a joy, a lightness, and a kind of alignment and flow, which is just so wonderful to experience. What is hardest for me is just to sit quietly, to do a kind of meditation where I move inside and I allow my being to open up to the connection with the divine that is always present. It's hard for me to sit quietly, to let go of the thoughts of the day, to let go of the old thought pattern and fear that the love will not be there, that I will be abandoned as I have been in personal relationships. So I have to really work with my awareness to kind of take a plunge and have the faith that if I just sit and be and allow myself to be in that silence, that I will find that there is a presence there, a presence that is aware of me, and that I can be aware and connected to that presence, and that it's really always there waiting for me to do that. And yet, emotionally, it can be as scary as jumping out of a plane. And it's ironic because what is the danger? What is the danger of sitting down in the quiet? For me, it's the devastating feeling of abandonment. What if the divine is not there for me? What if my wants and needs are not in alignment with a greater plan? The prayer for divine will, not my will, does not always come easily. In fact, often it's only after I've made my request that I realize that I may need to shift my perspective. And I love having learned about the most benevolent outcome for all. What a difference it would make if people approach the presidential election wanting the most beneficial result for all, and not what would most benefit their immediate desires. Huge, huge shift for me. when I started expanding my perspective to include all and not just me. And yet it makes total sense when I realize that I am just a part, a individuated part of the greater wholeness of love. And therefore, it is all interconnected, and it is for the benefit of all, and I am that all. I am also very fortunate in that I have many experiences where I have seen divine guidance and presence in my life. And as I've thought back to my early life, I realized that it was always there. It's just that I wasn't necessarily conscious of it. And there were times that I didn't necessarily make the best choices because I wasn't conscious and welcoming guidance that might have kept me from some personal suffering, from poor judgment and decisions. So today, I operate a little more slowly, a little more carefully, and with more openness in how I listen and watch for signs so that I don't just impetuously jump into things the way I did when I was younger. And often I find that there is a kind of knowing that I have that is getting stronger as I work to listen and wait for it. And I realize that that knowing is a kind of direct knowing. There isn't always a rationale for it. There isn't always physical evidence that I can say pointed me to that knowledge or choice. And yet there's a kind of rightness, correctness, truth that goes with it. And that's, to me, the validation that the divine is operating in direct connection with me, as with everyone. And yet, I still struggle. I struggle to allow that connection to exist. And I'm getting better. As Jackie Wallens would say from our group, every day, better and better. And there is truth to that. It is getting better. So now I would like to open the call for sharing, and each of you are welcome to explore any of the thoughts, ideas, emotions that may have come up as we have introduced this topic, and I welcome your contributions. Thank you. Please remember to press *6 when you want to unmute to share in the call.
Hi, this is Laura. I'll share.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. Well, I found your sharing very powerful and very eloquent. And I was in the transmission of it, and this, brought to mind the kind of Christian idea of, a testimonial, and so I think it's so powerful to share our challenges and our experiences because something happens in that sharing. And I can really relate to your theme and your experiences. I've been having my own version of a challenge along the same themes, and I live in New York City still, and it is my experience of the energy in the past couple of years. It's always been an intense place, and I'm also, very empathic, so I feel people's emotions and very sensitive. It's always been chaotic, but in my perception, the last couple of years, something has shifted, and there's almost a kind of a dissonant vibration underneath everything that is really unprecedented, and I've really been struggling with that for quite a while now without it's a constant challenge, although I have tools that I use, meditational and so on, but I found myself, so it's kind of my discipline as I walk on the streets, is to kind of try to engage with the energy consciously and to meet it in a positive way or a constructive way rather than a devolving way. And it's really a challenge, and I don't always succeed in doing that, but that's the discipline. And but I've kind of found myself reflecting on, theologically, in the past, I never really related to the idea that evil was sort of a real force, that was like a counterpart for good. But I almost, I find myself sort of resonating with that theological idea recently, because some of the energy on the street that I feel is just so kind of unhuman. And so, it's really kind of thrown me for a loop where I don't really know how to move with it. That's kind of my version of the theme that you're talking about, that helps to know that there are other people that experience a version of it. So that's my sharing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
This is Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi. And first, Sally, thank you. Excuse me?
Yes, go ahead, Linda.
Okay. Thank you for putting yourself forward this way and for inviting us to join you. And what I'm experiencing is this is a nice feeling of community that we can enter easily. And for me, at least, you're the only one I know on the call. And it's such a pleasant contrast and awakening from the bombardment of things going on in our own political system at all. right now. Being present, being gentle, and resonating together in that space is key. And connecting through the heart. And just experiencing that together. So, thank you for the gift of initiating that and the sharing with us.
You're welcome. And I hope you, as the others, feel what I'm feeling at this time and throughout the call, that the people in this community are amazing healers and spirits and beautifully channel love. And it's one of the reasons I keep showing up for these calls, is that it is a forum where we can bring and focus this loving force and anchor it here. So thank you for being part of it tonight.
Technical question. Do I need to hit *6 again?
Yes, that will mute your line. Thank you.
Okay, before I mute, I want to say that I'm presuming we're all in Asheville right now. I don't know that, but I'm presuming that.
Actually, no.
Not? Okay.
Laura, several of the people are in New York, Connecticut.
Oh, good.
There are people who are holding space in New Mexico or California. So, yeah.
Good. In which case, just the resonance, part of the resonance that I feel just by being in this very old sacred crystalline structure of Asheville and beaming waves between and among those places feels like family. So it's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Thank you, Sally. That was very beautiful and intimate and moving, and it really led me. I resonated so much with it because it's been a big thing that's been up for me, particularly in the last 6 months or so, maybe to a year, but in a big way in the last 6 months. And what struck me was that I had kind of a 180 from you in that in my times of greatest fear or need to connect, that what would do it for me would be to actually sit alone and go into meditation and connect that way. There's actually a Buddhist poem that Sogyal Rinpoche put to a guided meditation with music called Rest in Natural Great Peace. And it's been a refuge for me to actually go there. I always think of that concept of resting in natural great peace when I'm feeling fear or disconnected. But what's interesting is that for me, that feels so safe and connected, whereas when I'm sometimes alone and on the earth, doing earth things, whether it's nature or walking around or just contemplating what's going on in the world or the troubles with so many people, and I too, it has seemed like so many people are in crisis right now of all sorts, all different kinds, and, our government's mirroring the turbulence in some way, and that it's harder for me to be alone in the world than it is, and connect than it is when I'm just alone in meditation. And the time that I can feel it the greatest when I'm out in the world is when I'm with other people, not by myself. And it always amazes me that I can sit alone and connect with the divine and, travel to distant stars and things. But if I go into the forest alone, I have fear. And I'm currently working on this concept of what this is. It seems to me that coming to Earth, that I've had to connect really high up to have the courage to then spend time. I mean, I spend a lot of time alone, but not kind of in the forest and I enjoy so much more being with people because I feel the flow of energy, like the divine in myself and others when I'm in relationship more. And so I just thought of all these things when you were talking, and it's come up a lot for me in the last year or so because I have had issues in my life, including physical and some in my relationship and some with friends who have been very sick and even died, that so much fear has come up, almost like, the onion effect that I just, stumbled in the last year and a half or so to these triggers for just the deepest fear, even really like a primordial type of fear. And it's always interesting to me that when you have real issues going on in your life, and even with some physical things and medical things, that when you have extreme pain or challenge in some way, or the pain of those you love, that those are the times that we're supposed to really feel safe in our connection to the divine. And yet the truth is, at least for me, that those are the hardest times to connect and really have the faith and trust that you need. And I think it seems to be somewhat of a universal truth in that it's when you get tested that you really need to call on these things, even if you're in emotional or physical or mental or spiritual pain. And that's been a lot of what my path has been in this last 6 months to 2 years, actually. And I can feel myself coming, like on the slope of coming out of some of that deep fear. But I tell you, it has brought me to my knees at times, how powerful it is. So thank you for the opportunity to share, with this group, and to feel all of your support.
Thank you. Thomas, Stacy, we do have a few minutes more for sharing if you'd like. And if you're complete in just communing in silence, that's okay too. So if you can give me an indication of what you'd like.
Hi, Sally. It's Stacy.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for sharing. It's powerful for me to hear your story after working with you for so many years, and it's so much alike. And I'm so glad that you found gardening. Gardening, as you know, is always my refuge. And I just got a lot out of feeling all the energy from everyone, and just knowing to always, to remind myself that to feel the love of the universe and kind of ground and not get caught up in that negative, crazy rat race that the world is increasingly getting faster every day and stuff. It was just really good to hear, and also the part about the benefit for the good of all, the group, and that really resonated with me. I'm really going to think about that tomorrow and moving forward each day. I like that a lot. It really spoke to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sally. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Thomas.
I'm trying to remember the name of the song that came out about 20 years ago. Something about singing about my life out loud. I can remember the tune, but I can't remember the words. Especially when you were talking about the dog. That's one place to find love. I don't have a doggy at the present moment. We have a little cat, and she reminds me of my lower self. But nonetheless, it's a way of connecting with that divine. You and I have chatted about this a couple times before, but maybe it's worth restating. I know in the depths of my being that all this is the divine. There's nothing that is not the divine. And whatever is happening is the divine plan in being at the moment. And then when I get behind the wheel of my car and start driving somewhere, it's just like this creature comes out from within me, and it's just this rage being, or sometimes, and it's just, it's not easy for me, at least. I haven't found that place truly of living in the centeredness of my being. I get reminded whenever the rageaholic comes out, and I know this is the divine. All of it's the divine. There's nothing that's not the divine. But again, I can't go anywhere without being reminded, hey, come back to the place in the divine. I can't remember exactly which one of my teachers said it, but it was something like that all events conspire to bring me back to the divine. So, anyhow, when I get the name of the song, I'll send it to you. Maybe you remember it, I'm not sure.
I'd like that.
So, anyhow, I don't know if it's... Technically, I don't know if it's a struggle. That I'm struggling to find the divine, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of flipping it around and over and inside out, maybe it's the divine that's on its way to its own realization within me, whoever the me or the I is. So I'm in that kind of between place of thinking I'm looking for it, and it's also maybe the case that it's emerging from within, that it's always there and has always been, and that is my true nature. So I'll send you a postcard with future results. Okay, Sally, that's all I have to offer.
Well, thank you, and thank you especially for holding space tonight. There is a reason that I ask you repeatedly to do this, and that's because I feel the divine radiate from you whenever we commune. And I know that you will feel and experience it. And I think the other thing that came up for me is I am so grateful to have had my grandmother, Mimi, and my mother-in-law, Hannah, in my life, because they really embodied what it is to be a human in divine connection. And I remember when I was probably in junior high school, I was sitting at the table with my grandmother, Mimi, and I don't know what we were doing, but I started looking at her, trying to figure out what was this that she had that connected her so securely to God and to love. And she was a very devout Christian Scientist. And I remember she looked back at me and she said, Sally, stop looking at me that way. I feel like you're undressing me. Mm-hmm. And it was so true because I was literally trying to get through all of that physical stuff and understand what she was doing, how she was holding it. And similarly, my mother-in-law was not a religious person, but she is probably the most spiritual, loving person I've ever known. And to just be with her was so amazing because it was like having somebody hug you without needing to have their arms around you. And for me, these are kind of the people I try to evolve into, to be able to hold, embody, and reflect love with such clarity and purpose and being that is felt by all of those around me. And with that thought, I would like to close our gathering. So thank you for joining us for this Spirit Gathering teleconference. The call may be archived as an MP3 at www.tzaddi.org. Phone access to the recording of this call is available until next month's call. For playback of the recording, dial 712-432-1085, access code 990322 #. We hope you'll join us for our next Spirit Gathering on Tuesday, November 15th, 2016. Our gatherings are on the third Tuesday of the month. These calls are hosted by Tzaddi, an interspiritual metaphysical organization founded in California in 1964. Tzaddi welcomes, nurtures, and supports people in celebrating and more directly experiencing their relationship with the loving presence of the divine. Our programs are open to people of any race, color, or national or ethnic origin. Visit www.tzaddi.org to learn more. We will now close with thanks and a blessing. Thanks to Tzaddi founders Amy Keys and Dorothy Blackmere. Thanks to all of you who have been a part of our community tonight. And thanks to the divine who supports us always, even when we are not aware of it. The blessing tonight I'm going to give with the prayer of light. Love before me, love behind me, love at my left, love at my right, love above me, love below me, love unto me, love in my surroundings, love to all, love to the universe. Peace before me, peace behind me, peace at my left, peace at my right, peace above me, peace below me, peace unto me, peace in my surroundings, peace to all, peace to the universe. Light before me, light behind me, light at my left, light at my right, light above me, light below me, light unto me, light in my surroundings, light to all, light to the universe. Thank you and good night.